Well, hello, everyone. For those of you who were not here when we were chatting before, and for those of you who don't know me, I go by, I know it says Rogue Reverend. That was like 3 or 4 years ago. I felt very rogue. I left the Unitarian Universalist world and liberal spiritualities in a way. And I have been contemplating, like every 3 months, I feel like a new identity rising. But I'm keeping Reb for now, as in reverend and as in revolutionary. So, Rev Mariela. I was born in Cuba, came to this country when I was about 21 years old. One of my main creators is one of creator. I'm a creator of reality. I'm also a guide to people, one on one, a work that I really love. I hold a Master's of Divinity and a Master's in Writing and Literature. And my real vocation kicked in after I experienced trauma during midlife, and my body became a battlefield. I then went back to school to learn about the nervous system about energy. And since I see our nervous system, this is the one thing our shared humanity. We shared a human nervous system. And so I became trained in Reiki. I became a Qigong practitioner. Um, and this is kind of where a lot of the knowledge that I had gained in my Masters of Divinity, but even before that, I grew up without religion. So I have been studying spiritualities from around the world my whole life from this place of hunger. I didn't grow up with anything, so I was hungry. And so part of this new spirituality of mine also comes from my deep listening within to what the ancestors, to my ancestral lineage, to the life force that moves through me, through the vitality, the aliveness that moves through me. So I come from a lineage of people, Taino people of the Caribbean and Yoruba people of West Africa, who suffered tremendously at the hands of the colonizers, but who never lost their spirit in a very embodied way. And I take pride in that inheritance. My work is dedicated to them, and I bring them with me today. They pulse through my body and even through my accent. So after I distanced myself from Unitarian Universalism, um, which made me abandon myself and my roots, I have been in the process of decolonizing my spiritual practices, what I call worship, and even how I live. My Taino ancestors were a matrilineal society, and I grew up in a family where there were no men. So my grandmother was the matriarch of my family of 7 children. She had 7 children and I think 13 grandchildren. So this is part of what I bring to you today, my current matriarchal philosophy, and this is part of the legacy I want to leave behind for the children of the new earth. I want to begin by telling you about she, the love of my life. And by she, I mean SHE, and I mean CHI or QI. And so I open with a quote from one of my favorite teachers. Her name is Anodea Judith. So, pulsing through the whole of nature, animating each and every one of our cells is a luminous divine energy. Its radiance shines in the light of the sun and the reflection of the moon. It is the energy behind the teeming life in the sea and the constant buzzing of insects. It beckons the grasses to rise and opens the flowers in the spring. All life carries it, depends upon it, and is made from it. Like electricity in a lamp, it is universal, yet it shines through the individuality of each vessel with an infinite variety of expressions. Scientists have explored this energy, measuring and quantifying it, yet have not pierced the mystery of of its essence. Religions have worshipped it with volumes of scriptures about its meaning, yet its everyday presence is often overlooked. Lovers thrive on it, moving mountains when they discover it, and suffering miserably when it is lost. This life force has been known by many names. The yogis call it prana, acupuncturists call it chi, martial arts such as tai chi and qigong and kung fu also call it chi. Energy healers work with this manifestation in the subtle field and call it the aura. It's also been called Reiki. In the Star Wars movie, it's simply called the Force, a universal principle of intelligence that we can tap into for guidance and harmony. End of quote. So this is she we're talking about. She has also been called anima, as the animating current that gives life to a being. In Hinduism, she is Shakti, the divine feminine. She is Kundalini. She is vitality. And while we humans have been forcibly and traumatically disconnected from her, we are now in the process of repairing that rupture because she is rising, because she is coming back from patriarchal exile, because she is medicine. To me, she is currency. Currency. She is the most precious and valuable resource I have. Why? Because to create reality here on earth, I was given a body, but a body alone is not enough. My body without energy would be a corpse. So when I speak about Shi, Shakti, I mean the aliveness that moves through me, the animating current that gives life to my flesh and makes my life and my medicinal creations possible. She is the life force of my ancestors, liberating me from colonial empire. To me, she is spirit. And the way I see it, to be spiritual is to be filled with energy. And again, energy is currency. So to me, to be rich is to be filled with energy. Since energy is the currency, is the medium that I use to create reality. The more energy I have, the more reality I can create. Our energy is precious, is valuable, and is sacred. In fact, our energy is so valuable that systems of oppression have extracted from her, from us, in the name of productivity, for their financial gain, desecrating in the process. Capitalism is inhumane and soulless in that way. I have come to see how life is ultimately about a reunion of what I call vision and Shakti, a love affair that was violently interrupted. Yin and Yang are primordial concepts in every spirituality. You know, the primordial means something that has always existed from the very beginning of life. You find it across every tradition, yin and yang. This is one of the main spiritual teachings that was taken away from us by colonizers. The understanding of yin and yang now is part of the reclamation. And this is not about gender. This is not about gender at all. Each of us has yin and each of us have yang. Think of yin as the moon and yang as the sun. Think of yang as the part of us that gives and gives and gives and gives and gives and gives energy. And think of yin as the receptive part of us that absorbs and then gives. Like the moon, who receives the light of the sun and then reflects it back to us during the darkest nights, during our darkest nights. She is a receptor. And so we must learn to receive as well. We have not been taught that. We don't even know how to accept compliments. So I call Yang vision, our consciousness, the light of our awareness. It travels down from above, bringing clarity, intention, and direction. Shakti is our yin life force. Again, the divine electricity that rises from below, that animates our flesh, bringing power, pleasure, and vitality to our lives. To create reality on earth, we need both. So the miracle happens in the meeting inside the body. This is what I call embodied ascension. This is when the life force rises throughout the body and brings this incredible clarity and vitality to our lives. And so for centuries, colonial systems severed this relationship. They kidnapped vision, they scattered our attention, fragmented our focus, brainwashed our consciousness. From the time we were very little, we could have been climbing trees. We could have been identifying the names because Shakti is relational, the name of the plants and the earths, but no, we were made to sit down, to push down our life force energy, to disconnect from our body so that they could brainwash our consciousness. Then they exile our Shakti, they shamed our body, suppressed our life force, and extracted our energy. They forced us to abandon the body, the container where vision and Shakti were meant to dance together. I believe that the future of this earth and of humanity depends on bringing mind and body together. This is the empowering path of a revolutionary return to the ancestral ways of being. In Hinduism, we find this duality in the concept of Shiva and Shakti, representing the two inseparable aspects of one being, the universal principles of consciousness and energy. Now, that's what I see happening in the body, but I want to pull out now and go a little bigger in a more expansive way to give you my larger universal belief these days, since after all, we're still Unitarian Universalists. So what is this, universal perspective? As always, you don't have to believe this. I encourage you to believe nothing, but entertain possibilities. As one of my teachers, Caroline Casey, says, believe nothing, but entertain possibilities. So I want to invite you to entertain the possibility that we live inside a web, a sentient web of universal intelligence. Most of our ancestors all over the world had myths that spoke of this. And in my decades of studying sacred stories and energy systems, I have come to understand the depth, the sacredness, and the potential for healing and liberation inside the wisdom of us being inside a web. When people ask the universe for something, I believe this is what they're referring to. When others speak about the quantum field, they're likely referring to this. I call it the web to honor the ancestors. I believe we are creators, children of a creator, co-creating reality inside this web. And each of us was given a body, our own little web, our own little container of energy for this process of reality creation. So again, when we think about our bodies as a container of energy, the container absorbs the energy from our environment. The container. If growing up or through our lives, our container was filled with loving, peaceful, empowering, and healthy energies, we receive that, right? So we grow up into mature and healthy reality creators. Our web becomes coherent and it vibrates, puts out medicinal frequency to benefit the collective, right? So if I'm regulated, if I'm connected to the spirit that rises through me, to the spirit that comes down, my offerings to you, to the world, anything from my meals to my meetings, everything I'm putting out into the world is medicinal. But if growing up and throughout our lives, our container was filled with violence and stress, think movies, the news, actual violence in our neighborhoods, in our families, and all of that, our container absorbed that, and our container becomes filled with fear and trauma. And then those are the frequencies that we end up using to weave reality with. The way I see it, web equals womb, equals mother, equals matter, equals madre. The web is the wholeness of life. She is the nest that contains all of life. So she is yin, and the yang is the action inside the web. From my perspective, the yang has been seen as the pattern, the logical pattern that we follow to move from point A to point B inside the web. Yang is the logical action, the objective aspect of the self, which is also needed to create reality. Let's say a worship service like today is a container, is a web of energy that contains all of us, that contains all this teaching, that contains all this music. And the yang will be the order of service. Right? And so this is kind of what I was talking about earlier, but let me continue. Okay. So inside the larger web that is mother, we are creators. We are world builders. We are weavers of life. We are creating reality with threads of energetic frequencies. And so our collective reality today reflects the harm from centuries of colonial abuse on the nervous system, which brought about serious damage to our electrical systems and to our power as co-creators of reality. I am talking absolutely all my ancestors, and I carry this, and I'm talking too about white people and the brutality of some of the European ways, and the Trump, like public shaming and just all of that I don't want to mention here. I don't want that in that container, but you know, right? So it's like our containers, our psyches absorb all that brutality as well. And so all that lives in the programming of the subconscious mind, which is the body, which is the nervous system. And this is why subconscious reprogramming is so important these days, that decolonization of our psyches, because all of that lived there. So when we tend to the electricity of our container, of our web, we're not only supporting our bodies and our web. This is not selfish personal work. This is tending to the larger web as well, since we are deeply intertwined. All we are sharing a collective nervous system right now. We are contagious. I can tell you, oh my God, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I'm so excited about it's like I'm so excited. And that can activate your energy, right? Or I can go, how do we bring the energy down? How do we ground? How do we regulate? How do we put more love into the work, into the web? This is energy. And the nervous system has a lot to do with that. What we're seeing all around the world is the brutality of the colonizer that they'll continue to create reality with. So anyway, again, yang consciousness, remember, is objective. It's going to focus on an object. Yin, the subconscious, is subjective. She's absorbing what we subject her to. So when we do anything from creating a worship service to meeting a friend, there are two forces at play. The patriarchy taught us to focus only on the objective, the what. What are we doing? What are we doing? But the matriarchy is here to remind you to also pay attention to the how. How is this worship or meeting nourishes the subconscious with colors, with flavors, with delight, with beauty, with flowers? Nourishment is a key element in the matriarchal approach. Nurturance is another one. How can we nurture an idea? If you were to start something after this, think of it as a seed. How can you nurture that seed with love, with sweetness? You know? Okay, so let's go back to the mother for a minute, the large web of creation. Sometimes I call it mother galaxy. And I picture it as a dome of sacred geometry, of infinite smaller domes that are connected by threads of energy. So each of her nodes is like its own sacred mandala. You are sacred, you are sacred, you are sacred, you are sacred. Your own little web is sacred. And each of our creation is a little node that now lives in that web. So what are we creating? What are we creating? Every time we create something new, that appears. There was just something that wasn't there before and now appears. I know that we are seeing death and decomposition everywhere. And that is very much part of life and the cycles of life. Countries and institutions and relationships and humans die. And that brings so much sadness and so much grief because we're human, because we have a heart, because we are social beings, we attach to one another. But as someone who has been through so many death and rebirth processes, truly every 7 years is like a brand new life for me. Being moving every 7 is just incredible. And so I know this, and I hope you take comfort in this idea of knowing that we are creators of magic. By magic, I mean, again, when I create something that didn't exist, I have altered the web in some way. I try to make my creations beautiful. This sermon and this service is magic, meaning, let's say you put this sermon on YouTube, it didn't exist there before. And then the next day, tomorrow, it appears on the web. That is magic. That's reality creation. So let us grieve. Yes, let us grieve. Let us grieve. Let us be human and grieve. But also let us remember the power that we have, the power to create something new every single day. And that comes with embodiment, with that she, life force, Shakti that moves through us. I couldn't have found my power in my head. In fact, just living in my head nearly killed me. And I'm not exaggerating. This is why I left a lot of the systems that kept me in my head. The power lives in my body. The power lives in our bodies. Again, I invite you into the possibility of believing that you are a container of sacred, creative energy inside the larger container. And that is important because taking ownership of this container and taking ownership of this energy is essential for our healing, liberation, and reality creation. This is my energy. What am I going to give my energy to? What am I going to create? What kind of magic? The way I see it, everything is a container. The universe is a container of galaxy. Galaxies are containers of solar systems. Solar systems are containers of planets. Planets are containers of ecosystems. Ecosystems are containers of bodies, and your body is a container too. One of the main things this body contains is a core, a spine, a strong spine. Some call this our line of dignity, a metaphor used in somatic or body focused therapy to describe the vertical alignment of the spine when standing with a confident and grounded posture. It represents this physical embodiment of self respect and courage. After so many centuries of patriarchal rule, so many of us have like curled in a little bit, but we are learning. I have learned to love the feeling of my straight spine. It has been truly life changing for me. I feel so centered and powerful when I take this posture. And I think, what if our ancestors, eons ago, decided to strengthen their spines, to get closer to the heavens above? What if our ancestors, eons ago, decided, I don't want to be a four-legged creature anymore. I want to rise. This is what rising with dignity is about. What if what separates us from other earthly creatures is this capacity to rise up, to connect with spirit, to get these downloads, these ideas, and then to create them into reality? In astrology, which I have been following because I think it's an energetic system, this feels very much like Capricorn. I'm a Capricorn, and Capricorn is this rising with dignity. It's an energy that can rise above all limitations. I feel this is the kind of energy that is rising now in all of us after generations of colonial patriarchal oppression. The planet that rules Capricorn is Saturn, which is associated with the bones, with the skeletal figure, structural, whatever, the bones. And that really tracks. So this is the story I'm inviting you into for the new earth. Okay, the story of rising with dignity and fulfilling the ancestral aspiration to be the bridge between heaven and earth. And all of this comes down, to me, it comes down to celebration. Worship as celebration, life as celebration. What is there to celebrate? Being alive in a body that is receptive, like the moon. The body has so many openings to receive life, to take life in, orifices, to engage with life. The colonizers taught us to do and do and do and instill this sense of urgency in our nervous system that now, if we stop to savor, to enjoy, we feel guilty. We feel ashamed. We feel like there's something wrong. I'm gonna get in trouble. There's something I need to be doing. I need to be more productive. That is the yang dominating the psyche. And so we are so busy trying to change the systems out there and ignore this inner system, ignore where yang is in our families, in our communities, in our gatherings. And so this is kind of part of decolonizing and changing the web from within. So celebrate every time you get together. Celebrate all the years you've been together. Celebrate life. Celebrate one another. Celebrate your own life. Celebrate where you come from. Celebrate your ancestors. Celebrate each and every ounce of life as a radical and revolutionary practice, because life is sacred, because life is delicious. And from that receiving of life fully, of chi, right? You receive that chi from the beauty, from the food, from the whatever, you get emboldened, you get strengthened to take the action to change the systems that are destroying life herself. But activism without sustenance is unsustainable. This is the matriarchal revolution. Are you in? Whatever you do next, let it emerge from within, from your longing. Let it be easeful. It doesn't have to be hard. Let it be easeful. Does it feel sustainable? Does the nervous system say yes? Mm-hmm. That's the she. That's the divine feminine. That's what I invite you into. May it be so.